Under the grand chandeliers of Munich's Bayerischer Hof Hotel, where world leaders whispered about wars and alliances, two men sat across from each other, their conversation carrying the weight of a brewing storm thousands of miles away. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio leaned in, his voice firm yet measured. Across from him, Philippine Foreign Minister Enrique Manalo nodded, his expression betraying the concerns of a nation caught in the crosshairs of a maritime chess game. The South China Sea, where Chinese ships shadow Filipino fishermen, where Coast Guard standoffs are a weekly affair, loomed over the discussion like an unseen specter. This wasn't just another diplomatic handshake. It was a meeting that could shape the course of an increasingly volatile region. At the Munich Security Conference 2025, the South China Sea emerged as the hotbed of high-stakes diplomacy. With global security at a tipping point, the U.S. and the Philippines rallied against China's rising dominance in the contested waters. Philippine Foreign Secretary Enrique Manalo and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio took the spotlight, pushing for deeper strategic ties, joint patrols, and expanded base access under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA. The U.S. doubled down on its commitment to the Philippines, signaling a robust defense partnership against China's maritime aggression. China's former Deputy Foreign Minister Fu Ying defended Beijing's territorial claims, warning that U.S.-led military alliances could ignite more tension.
This U.S. military voyage in the South China Sea, there's no specific restrictions, even according to the law of the sea, according to the international law. There is a freedom of navigation. The problem comes only when it comes too close. And you know how many military exercises are held in the South China Sea? More than the commercial activities. But that has to be really, that there has to be a better sense of avoiding danger, avoiding conflict.
But the battle wasn't just about military might. It also extended to economic influence. The U.S. pledged to support the Philippines' infrastructure, energy, and tech sectors to counter China's growing regional sway. As the MSC 2025 unfolded, it was clear. The Philippines is now a key player in shaping Indo-Pacific security. With the U.S. in its corner and China pushing its agenda, the South China Sea remains a powder keg. Its fate will define the region's stability for years to come. At the Munich Security Conference 2025, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Philippine Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo held a crucial high-level meeting focused on regional security and economic cooperation. With growing tensions in the South China Sea, both nations reaffirmed their commitment to deepening strategic ties and countering destabilizing actions in the region. During the discussions, Secretary Rubio reaffirmed Washington's unwavering support for the Philippines, emphasizing the strength of the Mutual Defense Treaty, MDT. The United States reiterated that any attack on Philippine forces in the South China Sea would trigger a response under the MDT, reinforcing deterrence against external aggression. Rubio also highlighted the Biden administration's vision for a long-term, invested, and enduring relationship, ensuring that security cooperation would go beyond military alliances to include economic resilience and infrastructure development. One of the central topics was China's destabilizing actions in the South China Sea, including its harassment of Philippine vessels, militarization of artificial islands, and growing assertiveness in disputed waters. Both parties condemned these aggressive maneuvers, vowing to enhance joint maritime patrols and intelligence sharing to safeguard Philippine sovereignty. Beyond security, the U.S. and the Philippines explored deeper economic cooperation, particularly in critical industries such as defense, energy, and technology. The U.S. pledged to expand trade and investment opportunities in the Philippines, countering China's economic influence in Southeast Asia. Both nations reaffirmed their bilateral security commitments, with discussions on enhancing logistical support, training exercises, and access to strategic military bases under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. These measures aim to strengthen Philippine defense capabilities while reinforcing the U.S.-led security architecture in the Indo-Pacific. As tensions in the South China Sea continue to rise, the U.S.-Philippines dialogue at MSC 2025 marked another step toward a more robust and strategically aligned alliance, ensuring both nations remain prepared for the evolving geopolitical landscape. At MSC 2025, U.S.-Philippine economic cooperation took center stage, aiming to encourage a resilient, self-sustaining Indo-Pacific. With U.S. investments in the Philippines surpassing $13 billion, both countries sought to strengthen infrastructure and energy security amidst rising geopolitical tensions. A key focus was civil nuclear energy. The U.S. pledged support for developing nuclear infrastructure to meet the Philippines' growing energy needs, expected to rise by 3.5% annually until 2030. Nuclear energy could contribute 10 to 15% to the country's energy mix by 2035, supporting its goal of reducing carbon emissions by 75% by 2030. Supply chain security also emerged as a priority, with both nations focusing on critical minerals like nickel, where the Philippines holds the sixth largest global reserves. In 2024, its nickel exports were valued at $3.7 billion, making it crucial in the global supply chain. Cybersecurity and tech collaborations were strengthened, with the U.S. investing in joint training and digital infrastructure to counter growing cyber threats. Global cybercrime costs are projected to reach $10.5 trillion annually by 2025, highlighting the importance of these efforts. Renewable energy also played a role, with the U.S. supporting solar, wind, and offshore gas projects. The Philippines aims to increase its renewable energy capacity to 35% by 2030, up from 24% in 2020, to reduce fossil fuel reliance and enhance climate resilience. Philippine Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo emphasized the partnership's significance, stating a strong and committed Philippine-U.S. partnership in various areas will contribute to a more robust alliance. Through strengthened cooperation in energy, technology, and supply chain security, the U.S.-Philippines alliance is evolving into a long-term partnership for regional stability and strategic autonomy. The Philippine Coast Guard, PCG, and the Armed Forces of the Philippines, AFP, have been at the forefront of defending Manila's maritime rights in the South China Sea. At the conference, the U.S. pledged continued support in modernizing the PCG and AFP, providing enhanced training, surveillance technology, and maritime assets to strengthen the Philippines' ability to safeguard its waters. To deter further Chinese incursions, the U.S. and the Philippines agreed to increase joint maritime patrols and surveillance missions in disputed areas. These patrols serve a dual purpose, demonstrating the enforcement of international law and ensuring freedom of navigation in one of the world's most critical maritime corridors. Discussions included the potential expansion of the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement bases in strategic Philippine locations, further bolstering U.S. military presence and rapid response capabilities in the region. At MSC 2025, China's growing aggression in the South China Sea was a major concern. Tensions between Chinese forces and Philippine vessels have been escalating, with China using water cannons, lasers, and ramming tactics to intimidate Philippine ships. These acts of aggression, just shy of outright military conflict, have prompted stronger calls for the U.S. and its allies to back Manila. The Philippines continues to stand firm on the 2016 Permanent Court of Arbitration ruling, which rejected China's sweeping claims over the South China Sea. But China has ignored the ruling, building artificial islands and harassing Filipino fishermen. At MSC 2025, the Philippines, with U.S. support, pushed for a united global response to hold China accountable. The focus now is on moving beyond diplomatic words to concrete actions. The U.S.-Philippine alliance is evolving to include stronger deterrence and maritime defense, with plans for deeper collaboration with key allies like Japan, Australia, and European partners, all working together for a free and secure Indo-Pacific. The Munich Security Conference 2025 became a battleground for diplomatic clashes between Beijing and Manila over the South China Sea. A high-profile panel discussion, Making Waves, Maritime Tensions in the Indo-Pacific, brought tensions to the forefront as China's former Deputy Foreign Minister Fu Ying and Philippine Foreign Secretary Enrique Manalo debated the legality of maritime claims and military presence in disputed waters. Representing Beijing, Fu Ying firmly rejected the Philippines' military presence and infrastructure development in contested areas, accusing Manila of escalating tensions by constructing facilities on islands and reefs within China's claimed territory. She argued that the Philippines' recent actions, including the expansion of its outposts and military agreements with the U.S., violated the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea, DOC, a 2002 agreement aimed at reducing conflicts and promoting dialogue among claimant states. Fu further claimed that Manila was provoking regional instability by allowing the U.S. to expand its defense footprint in the Philippines, particularly through the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA bases, which she asserted were part of a broader American strategy to contain China. External interference only worsens tensions in the region, she remarked, subtly criticizing the increasing U.S.-Philippines defense coordination.
What concerns China now is the shadow of U.S. behind the claimants. That alerts the Chinese side. There's a great concern about losing these territories. We cannot lose them. We have very strong position on ownership. For Philippines to occupy Second Thomas, Realignment, and Sabina, which is because that is a violation of the DOC. Everybody signed to. I remember that language, not to make more moves. That language was watered down with the Filipino request in order for Philippines to also sign up. So we're all agreed. If the Philippines can take new rocks, how can you stop others? How can you stop China from taking more? We are capable, there's no problem. But we are exercising constraints because we are committed to this DOC.
In response, Enrique Manalo delivered a pointed rebuttal, asserting that powerful nations should not impose their own laws on weaker nations. He emphasized that Beijing's coercive tactics and continued rejection of international rulings, such as the 2016 Permanent Court of Arbitration PCA decision, exacerbate instability rather than Manila's defensive measures. Manalo dismissed China's accusations of Philippine aggression, pointing out that it was Beijing, not Manila, that had militarized the region, with artificial island bases, maritime militia operations, and increasingly aggressive encounters with Philippine vessels. He argued that the Philippines was merely defending its sovereign rights under international law, rather than engaging in provocation. He reiterated that the 2016 PCA ruling had already invalidated China's sweeping claims, and any attempt to disregard it was a violation of international norms. If adherence to international law is seen as provocation, then where does that leave the rules-based order? Manalo questioned, drawing strong reactions from the audience.
The UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. And countries which are exercising their rights in accordance with that law should have the right to exercise that law. And countries, I think, who reinterpret that law or apply their own domestic laws to certain areas and try to enforce them, then I think we're in a situation which leads to further tensions. And I think the only way forward is for countries who have signed on, for example, to agreements such as UNCLOS, to abide by what these agreements call for.
The heated exchange between Fu and Manalo emphasized the deepening Philippines-China divide, highlighting the growing international scrutiny over Beijing's actions in the South China Sea. While China continues to assert its dominance through economic pressure, military intimidation, and diplomatic maneuvering, Manila is increasingly turning to alliances with the U.S. and other regional powers to counterbalance Beijing's influence. With tensions unlikely to subside, the MSC 2025 debate reaffirmed that the South China Sea remains one of the world's most volatile flashpoints, where diplomacy, deterrence, and geopolitics collide. China renewed its long-standing demand for the removal of the BRP Sierra Madre, a rusting World War II-era vessel that the Philippines intentionally grounded on 2nd Thomas Shoal, Ayungin Shoal in 1999 to assert its maritime claim. The ship, manned by a small detachment of Filipino Marines, has become a symbol of Philippine resistance against Beijing's territorial ambitions. During the discussions, China's former Deputy Foreign Minister Fu Ying argued that the Philippines was illegally maintaining a military presence on the shoal and using the aging vessel to justify continued US-backed military operations in the region. She claimed that Manila had deliberately provoked confrontations by resupplying its troops stationed on the ship, despite repeated warnings from Beijing. However, the Philippines remains firm, asserting that Second Thomas Shoal falls well within its exclusive economic zone, EEZ, under the 2016 Permanent Court of Arbitration, PCA ruling, which invalidated China's sweeping claims over the South China Sea. Second Thomas Shoal, Manila's ongoing construction efforts at Sabina Shoal have drawn criticism from Beijing. Sabina Shoal, located within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, has become a strategic outpost for Manila as part of its broader efforts to fortify positions in the South China Sea. Reports indicate that the Philippine government has been reinforcing the area with small infrastructure projects likely to support future Coast Guard and naval operations. China, however, has framed these developments as an escalation, accusing the Philippines of undermining regional stability and violating the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea, DOC, an agreement signed by ASEAN and China in 2002 to prevent conflicts in disputed waters. Fu Ying went as far as to claim that Manila had watered down DOC provisions to justify its military actions, shifting blame away from China's own militarization efforts in the region. The U.S.-Philippines alliance is deepening with the expansion of Balakatan 2025, focusing on enhancing maritime security and island defense. Japan and Australia may join this effort, strengthening a multilateral defense posture in the Indo-Pacific. The U.S. is also modernizing the Philippines' defense capabilities with increased military aid, arms sales, and expanded rotational forces under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. Economic cooperation is key, with U.S. investments in infrastructure, energy, and technology aimed at reducing dependence on China and fostering long-term growth in critical sectors like clean energy and cybersecurity. China's maritime aggression, including tactics like water cannons and laser weapons, has escalated tensions, especially around the Second Thomas Shoal. ASEAN's role is complicated, with mixed responses from member states. While some, like Vietnam and Indonesia, favor a tougher stance, others maintain economic ties with China, complicating collective action. The ongoing China-ASEAN Code of Conduct negotiations may face hurdles as China continues unilateral actions in contested waters. The US, Philippines, Japan, and Australia are solidifying a Quad-like security partnership, signaling a more coordinated response to China's military and economic rise. The U.S. is increasing its military footprint in the region through joint patrols and exercises. In the economic sphere, the U.S. is countering China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, with alternatives like the Blue Dot Network and the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, IPEF, aiming to provide sustainable infrastructure funding and trade partnerships in Southeast Asia. At the Munich Security Conference 2025, the deepening U.S.-Philippines alliance took center stage, as both nations geared up to tackle the rising challenges in the South China Sea. With China's growing assertiveness threatening regional stability, the focus is shifting towards stronger security partnerships, building economic resilience, and charting a diplomatic course for lasting peace in these turbulent waters. The future is set to be a pivotal chapter in their shared efforts to secure a free and stable Indo-Pacific. Thank you for tuning into our channel. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analysis of global issues.